It was perceived as the evening when a remarkable young talent might steal Harry Kane's thunder, and that is precisely what happened. But lest we forget, Jude Bellingham isn't the only shooting star in Real Madrid's galaxy. GAWANG PATAH has summarized for you. Vinicius steals Jude Bellingham's thunder with brilliant double, but Harry Kane's 43rd goal of the season keeps Thomas Tuchel's dreams of European glory alive. Bayern Munich 2-2 Real Madrid. It was perceived as the evening when a remarkable young talent might steal Harry Kane's thunder, and that is precisely what happened. But lest we forget, Jude Bellingham isn't the only shooting star in Real Madrid's galaxy. This was a night where he merely danced on the periphery of the broad shadow cast by Vinicius Junior, who bookended a marvellous Champions League semi-final with a pair of goals that in one breath teased the prospect of a real victory and in the next rescued a draw. Before we get into the finer details, this was a belter of a tie. Truly, it was. And for a short while in the second half, it seemed sure that it would be decided in Bayern's favor by Kane's penalty for 2-1. We had already seen plenty of undulations by that stage, first with the sheer splendor of Vinicius Junior's opener in the face of a tidal wave of pressure from Bayern, and then via the turnaround brought on through Leroy Sané's equalizer after the break. With Real clearly still rattled, a Bayern penalty was quickly won and Kane nailed his kick, but only after he was joined on the spot by Bellingham in what was a curious sight indeed. It wasn't initially clear what he whispered in Kane's ear in those moments of tension, which played out as England's captain stood with ball in his hands, and possibly his destiny too. But the symbolism of what followed was gloriously clear. The old boy isn't handing over that scepter to the new kid just yet. For his part, Kane was none the wiser on the nature of Bellingham's comments. "I don't know what he was saying," he said. "I saw him mumbling something. Once I'm in that moment, I'm in my zone. I'm sure he was saying something to try to put me off." Had that Kane penalty been the winning strike, it would have made for a nice line in the narrative game. But Real Madrid are nothing if not suckers for an escape from a tight bind, a movie Manchester City know well, and so there was more, which is where Vinicius returned to the stage for the 83rd minute penalty that meant the scores were even when the music stopped. In the bigger picture, this draw will mean an advantage to Real Madrid ahead of the second leg at the Bernabeu next Wednesday. In that sense, Bellingham's prospects of winning the Champions League at the age of 20 remain alive, though this was not one of his more impactful evenings. That goes as much for his performance as his attempts at gamesmanship. Too often he was sucked into the red swamp of Bayern's midfield, dropping forever deeper to find possession before being withdrawn with Real still trailing. He looked exhausted and, more rarely, a little exasperated. Carlo Ancelotti later said, "He was just tired, but he will be fine for Wednesday." While some buffoons have found fun in his team losing their hold on the Bundesliga upon his arrival, his tally for Bayern now stands at 43 goals. Astonishing. That it could still conclude with the greatest club trophy of all is very much down to his 8 strikes in this competition since leaving Tottenham. His name was cheered loud and long before, during and after the game. They have taken to him. Then again, the Allianz Arena is just that kind of place, one of sport's great and noisy cathedrals. Bellingham's first taste of it came early. In fact, he experienced it well over an hour before kickoff, when he maintained his pre-match ritual of taking a solo stroll around the pitch. With several thousand Bayern fans already seated, there was a collective silence as if to query the brazenness of it all before the booing could commence. When it came in blasts. The relief for Carlo Ancelotti was that he effectively had a full hand to play in those surroundings, with only the suspension of Dani Carvajal separating Real from their strongest available 11. If the assumption was they would take control, it was misplaced. The first and best of a multitude of early Bayern openings came within 40 seconds, via a flicked pass from Kane to Sane, which foreshadowed a supply pattern that would repeat for much of the half, and served to give the latter a clear line of sight to Andre Lunin. Sane shot straight at the keeper, but that opportunity was followed with a raft of extras. Kane and Sane each had chances before Kane came within a foot of dropping one in from halfway. The attempt captured the Bayern plan to smack Real early and hard, and it was working. Goodness, Real, the 14-time champions, didn't have a single look at goal for 23 minutes. This being Real, that one look became one goal. We should start with Vinicius Junior. He was masterful for his role, both in the subtle step towards the halfway line that dragged Kim Min-jae with him, and then his sprint back into the vacated space prior to delivering the coolest of finishes. And yet the glory, the art, was found in the through ball by Toni Kroos. With no margin for error, the precision and weight of his pass between Kim and Eric Dier was simply marvelous. Kroos almost made it 2-0 at the start of the second half, only to be countered by the ageless reflexes of Manuel Neuer. And then the game swung again. Sane buried the equalizer after ripping apart Ferland Mendy on the turn, and almost immediately afterwards, Jamal Musiala, once of the England youth teams and now a German international, was brought down by Lucas Vazquez for the penalty. Kane ignored Bellingham and sent Lunin the wrong way. There would be further chances, both for Kane and twice for Vinicius Junior, who finally stole the show from the spot after Kim bundled over Rodrigo. A bunker's end to a fine game.